Hey everyone, I'm Not Quite Nick, and do you guys know how popular open world games are? Gaming is the most lucrative industry in entertainment, bigger than TV, music, and movies, and has been for well over a decade. Remember when they made tie-in video games for movies? Now they're making tie-in movies and shows for video games. While there isn't a single definitive top 10 highest selling games list online, pretty much all of them have the usual suspects. Tetris, Minecraft, GTA 5, Wii Sports, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Red Dead Redemption 2, The Witcher 3, PUBG, if you remember that one, Skyrim, and Super Mario Bros. For the NES. Free-to-play games like Fortnite don't count because you can't really trust downloads. Theoretically, some Fortnite nutjob could just spend all day downloading the game over and over again to boost numbers, and that wouldn't be fair.
This is all I have.
But look at this list. Of the top 10 highest-selling video games of all time, 5 of them are open world video games. The open world genre is a slippery one to define, but I boil it down to a game whose primary gameplay loop is based around traveling and exploring one map. A map which features various paths and unlockable areas earned from exploring its nooks and crannies. Non-linear exploration. The open world genre encourages player imagination and freedom of choice, which to us as humans are like the two most awesome things. Hell, the real world we live in is open world.
Well, it doesn't fucking feel like it!
So let's get to the point. If open world games are just that popular, then I gotta wonder, what was the very first one? Like, what was the first time someone stopped bouncing a ball back and forth and thought, what if I could go backwards? That game was Adventure, released in 1980 for the Atari 2600 home console, and was created entirely by Warren Robinett. In its initial release, it sold over 1 million units, which isn't bad, but it pales in comparison to 2600's flagship title, Pac-Man. But nowadays, Adventure is considered one of the greatest video games of all time, largely due to how influential it was for its time. Since I've played nearly all of the games on this list, and you probably have too, I decided to turn back the clock and look at the original open world video game, the one that started it all, 1980's Adventure. But before I can start playing, I need to read the instructions. Yes, much like a typical board game, video games used to come with instruction manuals, which were basically required reading if you wanted to actually know how to play. Tutorials didn't come until later. What the hell am I supposed to do now? Oh. Here was where you could find the controls and the objectives of the game, along with an outline of the story you were about to experience. It was written by Steve Harding, who wrote most of Atari's manuals at the time. And I couldn't find any pictures of him online, but I imagine he looked like this. He was tasked with coming up with Adventure's story after he played the game. Here's the introduction to Adventure. An evil magician has stolen the enchanted chalice and has hidden it somewhere in the kingdom. The objective of the game is to rescue the enchanted chalice and place it inside the golden castle where it belongs. Okay, very cut and dry. It's a fetch quest. Find the enchanted chalice, bring it to the golden castle, got it. There's 3 different skill levels which act as both a difficulty setting and level select. I'll start on level 1. The instructions go on to explain all the controls and give us a diagram for how an analog stick works, which is cute, but enough screwing around. Let's get into it. It's time to play the game that started it all. It's time to play Adventure. Oh yeah. It's very rudimentary by today's standards, but you gotta keep in mind, for 1980, this was cutting edge gaming, don't laugh. In just 10 years, video games would go from looking like this to this, which is crazy. And it's equally crazy to consider that 10 years earlier, they looked like this. It's nothing. You're looking at nothing because video games didn't exist yet. But for right now, it's 1980 and they look like this. We can bitch and moan about the graphics all we want, but we get a chalice to steal. Adventure starts you right in front of the golden castle, and yes, that is you, the player. You're a square. Picking up the key, you can open up the castle, which holds... yeah, that's a sword. Listen, in the early days of home consoles, technical limitations dictated the visuals. There was no room for art direction. The entire size of Adventure is 4 kilobytes, which, let's put that into some perspective. That is the same size as this picture. That is smaller than this sound file.
Freeman?
The PDF I downloaded of the game's manual is 236 times larger than the video game itself. So it may not be much to look at, but let's give the game some credit here. If adventure, the invention of the open world video game genre, was made entirely by one guy and is 3 times smaller than a blank Word document, then there is no good reason why today I need to buy an external hard drive just to play Fall Guys. But let's get back on track here. We've got a sword, which means it's time to do some killing. While the instructions mention an evil magician, we never get to fight him or even see him. In fact, when I first played, I didn't even know there was a magician involved until I read the manual after. What we fight instead are the evil magician's dragons. Their names are Yorgel, Grundle, and Rindle, and yes, they all have different personalities. Yorgel, or sometimes Yorgel, is yellow and is just plain mean. Grundle is green and mean and ferocious, but Rindle is red, and he's the most ferocious of all.
My favorite is Rindle, because he is red and he is the strongest.
Sword in hand, we make our way down a few screens to find the black key, and hey, look, that's Grundle. Dragons run away from you if you have the sword, but if we want to unlock the black castle, we gotta drop it to grab the key, making us exposed to potential danger. Heading the other way with the black key brings us to the maze, and oh, there's Yorgel. Navigating through this maze, I quickly realized that there is no logical consistency between screens, which means you can actually get stuck in a loop if you're not paying attention. Here's what the map looks like zoomed out. Truly non-Euclidean gaming.
Hey, do you know where I could find a chalice?
In the maze is where you encounter the bridge, which lets you walk through walls. Very cool. Be careful though, because if you touch it while inside a wall, you'll get stuck. But don't worry, the manual acknowledges this. To release yourself, press the red controller button. Doesn't work. If for some reason your magic should fail and you still cannot release yourself, press game reset and reincarnate. It's super charming to see how the manual's author Steve Harding wrote about common gameplay conventions, which were at the time brand new concepts. And yes, there is a physical reset button on the console. There's also a magnet tool, which is pretty much only used in case an item accidentally clips into the wall and you can't grab it. Other than that, it's pretty much useless. If you get eaten by any of the dragons, you're just actually soft locked until you hit reset, which will reincarnate you back at the Golden Castle. Once I figured out the maze, I was able to unlock the Black Castle and behold the enchanted chalice in all its seizure-inducing glory. Grabbing it was tricky though, because Yorgel and Grundle appeared and seemed to have fused into one being. This flickering effect you see here was fairly common in the early days of home console gaming. Basically, when too many sprites are on screen at the same time, the game can't process them all at once, so the workaround was to flicker everything at alternating intervals to create the optical illusion that it's all on screen at the same time. This flickering is also directly mentioned in the instruction manual, where it even recommends exploiting it to phase through enemies, which I think is cool as hell. But now that I had the chalice, it was a simple task of running it back to the Golden Castle without getting eaten, which did happen a couple of times. But once I finally got it back to the Golden Castle, I was rewarded with, yep, a seizure. Hooray, you did it! You beat adventure! But hey, you might be wondering, we only saw Yorgel and Grundle. Where was your favorite dragon, Rindle, Nick? Well, remember, I mentioned earlier that this was just level 1. Rindle can be found along with Yorgel and Grundle in levels 2 and 3. I know. The main difference between level 1 and 2 is level 2's expanded map. On top of everything from level 1, there's now 2 new cave sections and a white castle. Rindle can be found guarding the chalice beyond the black castle. These cave systems attempt to employ a limited range of vision effect, which I can simultaneously appreciate for its ingenuity and also hate in its execution. Navigating through the caves alone is fine. When you're alone, the desired effect is achieved of being mildly annoyed by limited visibility. But when enemies appear, that range of vision flickers along with the other sprites, making it almost impossible to see what is even going on. It's in moments like this I have to ask myself if I'm just spoiled by modern games, or did people in 1980 also find this really fucking annoying? But you don't even know the meaning of fucking annoying until we get to what I believe to be the single biggest change in level 2, Nubberub. Yeah, this guy. While the instruction manual only refers to him as the Black Bat, the game's creator, Warren Robinett, has said that he named him Nubberub. So, while technically non-canon, yeah, of course I'm going to call him that. Nubberub is a thief. Nubberub is a free agent, chaotic, neutral anarchist. His one purpose in the game, the only thing he does, is pick up items and move them around. That could be your sword, the dragons, or the very thing you're holding in your own hand. So if he pays you a visit, which happens near constantly, it becomes time to drop everything you're doing and search through the whole map to find your item again. Also, unlike the dragons, Nubberub cannot be killed, only momentarily captured, making him the most powerful character in adventure. Sometimes he picks up your items, sometimes he picks up the dragons. You can also pick him up for a brief period of time. The manual never mentions Nubberub having any allegiance with the evil magician, meaning he's just in it for the sick kicks. With these additions in mind, level 2 of Adventure is substantially harder than level 1. I even got spawn camped by Grundle at one point, which was crazy. He shouldn't be allowed to do that. But after getting familiar with the map layout and a lot of juking and respawning, I was able to once again return the chalice to the Golden Castle, leaving us with just one level left. The third and final level of Adventure is very similar to level 2. It's the same map with the same enemies and items, but their spawn points are now randomized. And right out the gate, I found Rindle waiting for me by spawn, and instead of fighting the sword in the Golden Castle, I just found Grundle, who ate me. But with 2 of the 3 dragons accounted for, I was able to safely search the rest of the map for the chalice. I found Nubberub frozen in a corner beyond the caves, presumably bugged because he wasn't intended to spawn in the spot, and freed him despite my better judgment. But as I continued to explore, I couldn't find the chalice anywhere, and I checked the White Castle, the Black Castle, and both cave systems. Right as I was about to double back and check everything again, Nubberub emerged with the chalice and just handed it to me, presumably as thanks for unfreezing him. I guess that little freak has a code of honor after all. And with all 3 levels done, I have now completed Adventure. Okay, I lied. There's one more thing I have to tell you about Adventure. It has a secret. A hidden room. A room not even in the instruction manual. In fact, Atari as a company didn't even know about it until months after its commercial release. Warren Robinett went totally rogue and snuck this in without telling anyone. Let me show you his secret. If you go into the maze above the Black Castle and use the bridge to cross over into this section right here, you'll pick up a secret, nearly invisible item. Even though it doesn't look like the others, this is a key. You must take this key all the way back into the opening area of the game, where it will let you pass through this solid wall and into the secret room. And in this secret room, Warren Robinett hid from Atari the credits. He knew how Atari published their games and that his name would be nowhere on the actual final product, and they would get all the credit for a game that he came up with and made completely by himself. So, he hid his name inside the game as a secret, and when the sitting manager at Atari eventually found out about it, he was like, oh, that's cool. It's like finding a hidden egg on Easter. That's right, everybody. Not only is Adventure the first ever action-adventure open-world video game ever made, but it also has the first ever Easter egg in gaming history. Credits. Adventure is a game that, in 1980, was at the absolute bleeding edge of its industry. Yes, this game. You can draw a straight line from the Legend of Zelda franchise, or GTA 6, or even a Minecraft movie, straight back to this one 4-kilobyte file. Adventure is the very first open-world video game. But just to be serious for a second, I think we all owe Warren Robinett a thank you. Because without his game Adventure, video games as we know it today would not be what they are. I'm never playing that game again. I hate that stupid bat so much. Hey!